Hi, everyone. My name is Ruta. I'm a product manager for Velo platform. And as Anthony said, I will tell you a little bit about the Wix Premium Plans, which you heard, but like the focus is on Velo and data features. Adding the Velo and data to the premium plans. So with this change, we want to remove some of the hidden limitations, and we heard your feedback about it and the pain of having some limitations that are not documented and are not clear, and to exchange them for those that are simpler and are also simpler to reason about. We have decided to move away from the single Velo offering to the multiple tiers in order to better support different types of sites and to enable the offering for more capacity and more features for the sites that need those. Also, pairing some of those new capabilities with the right premium plan enabled us to offer them at all, because otherwise it would have not been feasible. And also, you will see in this presentation, we inserted the questions that we got in the we found in the Discord channel, and I also picked some from the Facebook group, just to kind of make sure it's more interactive, and we address things that you talked about. So about the rollout plan. And whether you can use data and Velo in the free tier, and also some concerns on the business elites plan, that you can only use the Velo and data only if you purchase this plan. So let me address these. So all three sites can use Velo with some small exceptions of a few very advanced features like external database and SPIs. Then we have code and have a simple backend logic implemented. We also have a business plan. This plan provides 1 to 2 times the capacity of the old offering, and this is great for most large sites. It is for the sites that have large collections, they use Velo and they have backends. Limits, and this plan is aimed for advanced sites with critical Velo and data assets. These sites heavily rely on using data and have complex backend logic. Here we heard your questions about the price increase between the business and business elite plan, and we just want to explain what is the reason for that. So based on the current site usage, we could see that majority of sites fall into the lower tiers, but we also noticed that there is a cluster of sites that are struggling to operate with the existing limits that are currently present. And those sites would benefit from the plan that would give more resources than even the old limits. And in many ways, this scaled up plan or business elite plan gives dedicated resources, not the shared resources as the other plans have. And these resources, they cost more money by nature, and hence it's reflected in the price. And the last plan or the last offering is the enterprise. The enterprise provides flexibility. It's about supporting sites of any scale. You can get tailored solutions for whatever data resources, compute resources, or dev tools that you need to fit your unique use case. Okay, now I want to have a look at comparing the old and new plans. So first, let's focus on the compute platform. So with the new plans, we're able to offer auto scaling and to give more resources, compute resources in terms of more and larger containers. We can also give the higher RPM limits and also increase the timeouts or give longer timeout limits. In the presentation, I added these slides with tables where you can see old limits and also the new plan limits compared. I will not read line by line, but I will share the presentation afterwards so you can, on your time, have a look and sort of analyze what are kind of the differences. Okay, and we also had some questions about the compute resources and more specifically about the limitations on the backend requests. So as you could see on the earlier slide as well, the backend requests are limited by the RPM only. There is no monthly limit. All right, now let's move to the data platform. So Wix Data Platform. In Wix Data Platform, we have observed that our current default storage engine, which is the shared collection, is great for up to 10,000 items and simple collection. That shared collection technology has limitations on how many indexes can be created per collection. And with new premium plans, we're introducing the dedicated collection storage type, which supports more indexes and as a result allows us to perform on much larger number of items. Okay, and we got some questions about the data storage limits. So how the data storage limit is calculated, and it's calculated across all collections. So the total number of items in all collections. And let me move to the next slide to talk a little bit more about this. Does 10 gigabyte limit include images or media files? What about the signature images? Are they counted in collection storage? And based on all this feedback and also looking at the best practices in the competition, we decided to differentiate from media limits, which are measured in the gigabytes, and instead move to a more simpler logic of counting items. We are also working to remove the processing time limit, and we will replace it with the global monthly request limits, as well as quickly, but you will be able to see this after the presentation as well. And we also had some questions on the data resources. So one of the question was how what is counted as one data request? And it's a good question, and it can be a bit confusing. What is counted as one and what is counted as multiple requests? Here I just added a screenshot from our documentation, but you also have a link here, and you will be able to access it after the presentation, but it basically explains what is counted as one request for read and for write. And also there's an example below that can help you understand this better. And then developer tools. So we had, we got a lot of questions from you on why we're adding these limitations, and we want to explain the logic and how we got to them. So we created segmentation based on the data of the current site usage, and we noticed that there is a correlation between the heavy dev tools usage and the Velo and backend and data usage. So we aligned the dev tools and compute and data tiers accordingly. Also in DevTools, we created a possibility to schedule jobs on 5 minutes sort of interval or frequency as of 1 hour, which is the current limit, and also increase the number of the scheduled jobs in the highest tier for like 30 jobs. And then we have transition from old to new premium plans. So again, we had some questions about, what will happen with to the old plans. And let me talk about it. I think there are a few things that I want to mention about this transition. So first of all, the free sites. So all then about the sites that have existing premium plans. At the moment, we're not enforcing the new limits on the old plans. So the site's performance will not get affected. It will continue working as it is now, and you will get also about the enforcement of the new limits, we are currently working on providing visibility and I think this was all the questions or all the kind of agenda we wanted to cover, and also all the questions we could find in Discord. But if you guys have anything else that we haven't covered or anything new came up, it's now the time to ask.
Hi, everyone. Oh, thank you so much for answering the questions, providing the slides for us to see. Thank you so much for describing everything in detail. Really appreciate that. Some of the questions, I'm sure some people are the same. We have some questions, but it requires like a whole breakdown of explaining like like what we want to do first before we ask the question, because it might just seem weird. So that's why I raised my hand just now. Whenever I build sites for my clients, a lot of the times I'm converting or migrating over something that was already built. It was probably like a large site, and there are going to be a lot of like limits. So when I bring everything over to the new site, does the user have to buy a new plan now? Or like, because the free tier may not cut it, and to them, they'll think that it's just not working. So that's like one of the things I was going to ask. Like, a lot of the people that we have, our clients, we're always trying to like bring them over to either edit work, right? Because there's going to be like some processing problems. So they'll just be like, oh, well, this new migration that you did isn't going to work for me. That's like
So
one of the I was going to bring up.
I think it depends on what are you kind of how much resources this site is going to use, but it could be that the free plan will not be enough. So you may need to purchase a premium plan to kind of demonstrate the performance. Yes.
Right. So that's one thing. So then,
Mhm.
so they have to purchase the plan from the get-go. Well, there's a problem with that where sometimes it takes up to 2 to 3 months to build a resource-intensive website. So that means 3 months they'll basically be paying for nothing because there is no site yet for them to be published, right? It's not live yet. So that means for 3 months they'd be paying for something that we're developing. It's currently in development on our side. So I've had a couple of clients, we've told them because we have a couple of projects lined up and with this, with this new pricing plans coming into fruition soon. And we mentioned that they're gonna have to do this and immediately like, oh well, maybe we'll just try it. And because they don't want to pay upfront a 159 or whatever the price is, they just would rather just do something else entirely and just find a different solution or just stay on Squarespace and not go
I
to Wix.
I do believe that the 159 plan is like for really heavy sites, and I I think you probably don't need to purchase that plan during the development. You may, the lower plans may be enough, and when you get the real user traffic, if this site is really like the top heaviest sites on Wix, then you may need to upgrade to the 159. But I like looking at the numbers of the current usage. It's really like not every single site needs the 159 tier, and hence it's like that tier didn't exist before. We're added more backend and data resources that were not available, and it's like really to increase on the limits that we currently have. So I don't think like even if you're developing the site, it's probably not likely that you will need to aim for this like top plan during the development phase.
So we do have quite a few, more than a few, more than a handful, quite a bit of actual top tier sites that we are working with. We're doing a lot of enterprise level sites. So
Mhm.
as I mentioned, we're not doing, like the small business sites. We're talking enterprise level. When we start talking and negotiating these contracts, like there's just this extra layer of having to like convince them on these things that didn't exist before. So well, I appreciate you answering my question. So I'll go ahead and yield my time for anyone else to ask another question. But it is something that we're having to dive into now more than ever, especially with like just transferring content over. Um, but yeah, I'll yield my time and let someone else ask some other questions. Thank you for answering my question, by the way.
Maybe Ali, I can maybe jump in and just emphasize something. Development is not limited by these packages. The packages are aimed to make you scale. So basically, when you develop the site, there's no limitations. We will not tell you, okay, now you can't write more code or you can't, do something like that. But when you want to add more lines to your database because you're accumulating data, or you want to add going to 100,000 rows, that's a lot of data. It's probably generated by users, by real traffic. So once you getting to 25,000 RPM, read RPM, or 7,000 write RPM, these are all numbers that you get them only when the site is already live. And that's the thing, that's exactly what we're doing. When you start paying 159, the site is already live. and it is already not live in the sense of like it's just started, people are just jumping in. It is live and it's getting massive traffic. Thousands of users concurrently are surfing it. So then, justifying $159 per month, probably not that big of a deal. Again, it's your kind of work. And
Right, it's just a
that's
sales
what we do.
strategy that needs to be like added. I told you, I get your perspective and I understand where you all are coming from. I'm just saying it's just an additional layer of things that I'll have to convince on my end that didn't have to happen before, when all I really want to do is get as many people on the Wix
The thing that
platform
I
as
want you to
possible.
understand, it's not about blocking, it's enablement. That's the thing. Like prior to this period with those new packages, you were not able to scale. If you came to us and said, I need more compute, I need more database, my site is actually caving under pressure, we couldn't have give you any solution. This thing is all about giving you more. So you now can get dedicated resources on your database. You can get 5 pods running simultaneously. You can get more CPU, more memory. So, it's not about blocking you as much as it is about giving you an SLA, giving you like an agreement of like, this is what we can provide, and then being able to withstand it because we give you dedicated resources that are more capable of processing your traffic, your customers' traffic. So that's like, you need that kind of framing, which did not exist prior to this.
Right, and that's all I'm trying is I have to say that now, and I'll have to describe everything that you just told me to my clients who will not understand that previously. So that's what I'm saying is the other, like an additional layer of sales that I'll have to do, just to convince people who see numbers only. And well, you guys buy things all the time, you compare these pricing plans with other things like a Webflow plan, and it starts looking more and more likely like people will start going and jumping ship or just not migrating at all. And my job is wanting to get people to Wix. So having to have that additional sales tactic, it just creates an additional, layer that I'll have to prepare for. So that's all I'm trying to say.
And it's great feedback, and thank you very much. And I don't know if this is your experience with Wix, but we try to listen, and there are things that can move around. So, but what I wanted to ask, is there a specific area that you're like very concerned, and this like a specific limit, an item in the premium plans that this will block you from developing the site?
There are some, and I would rather not get into that right now. Again, I would rather have someone else ask some other questions,
Sure.
and that way it's more private,
Of
not
course.
like delving into like some of the things that we work on
Sure.
publicly like this. But yeah, definitely, I really absolutely do appreciate all of you all being here and answering these questions. So I know you can't see me, so but but I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ari. And yeah, we really appreciate your comments and feedback on this too. I think it's very important to hear from our users. So we have one question in the Q&A, which was answered. I'm just going to repeat it just for the video. Essentially, the question was, will new premium plans have local pricing? And the answer is that the plans are currently available to users in the US, and they will be made available to partners in the US towards the end of the month, end of the month being May. And plans for other geos are being localized and will be available by the end of the year. So that was the other question. Kenton has an open question in Q&A, but also has his hand raised, so I'm just going to allow him to talk. All right, Kenton, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, so can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you for taking the time for answering your question. I have a question regarding support. So those higher end plans for enterprise are more pricey and to provide more resources, so I understand. But for those clients, we need to have a high availability of support. And right now we do not have priority support for Velo. And so when something does not go well on the website, it takes a long time to investigate, and it's very complicated to go higher in the hierarchy in the support. Okay, so we have to explain our issue. Most of the time support do not understand. It needs to be escalated, and it takes a few days to solve issue. And sometimes the issue are critical because those websites generate a lot of money. And if the website is down for one day, some client can lose tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, and so what are your what are your plans for that? Do you plan to provide more advanced support for a higher plan or not at the moment?
It's a tricky question to answer, like for us, because we represent Velo and data. I don't remember now in the, like, out of all the features in the premium plans, but I do believe that there are like different tiers for support, and the 159 has the like higher tier. It's not obviously an enterprise level where you get an account manager, but like it should be in the PDF, you know, I think you posted it in the Discord channel as well. And I believe there was a line on the support, but I don't you know, remember that. I remember all my limits by heart, not that one. So, but it's like, it's also you know, valid feedback, and I will make sure that the premium team who owns this like overall alignments across Wix, I will make sure that they get this message.
Yeah, because I think it's really important when the price really increase, client expect to have very high uptime, and at the moment we cannot guarantee that, and that's really problematic when you have to sell Wix. When you say, hey, it's an enterprise, it's not open source, we don't control everything. You need to trust Wix. And if something goes wrong, just call Wix and I cannot do anything. And that's really hard to sell for enterprise. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to find the document and see that now about support, but yeah. Is there anything else? Any other questions? Maybe continue, heads.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Thank you
Oh,
for
yeah?
taking my next question. So, yeah, I think this last month or two, Wix has been down a considerable amount of times for a lot of our clients, and this has caused quite a bit of frustration. And now that I've also mentioned that the prices are going to get raised, the way they're looking at it is not just like, oh, well, they're trying to, improve their infrastructure. The way they're seeing it is that it's basically a broken system, and that Wix is probably not the platform they want to be on whenever their site is not working. I think I've sent over 8 to 10 support requests for a lot of the errors that we were receiving, either on Wix devs or just through the support system. Some of them are just basically saying, oh yeah, well, Wix is just down. Not officially on the site that they provide, but just maybe locally or something. But to my clients, they'll look at this and say Wix is basically a broken system. So now when I explain to them, and remember, this is not just for like mom and pop stores, this is for some of the other, other type of websites that do have a lot of resources. They're looking at it as like, okay, they're basically in some cases double to tripling their price, and I can't even get my site to work. What's going on? Why are they doing this? And we're kind of sitting there saying, well, I don't know the answer. I'll get back to you. What you're saying today is like, oh, well, don't worry. It's going to be better because now they'll have 5 to 10x more compute. But like another user has mentioned, how are we getting that guarantee? How are we going to be able to, because right now the services are pretty much broken, like nothing's working. There's a cap on just like doing queries right now on some of the more bigger sites that we have, and they're already seeing these limits. And I know Editor X is not part of this yet, but there's already a cap on the amount of storage that you can put on Editor X. So a big site I'm working on right now, I'm migrating all their content over because I sold them on upgrading to Editor X and building this whole system for them, but I can't even add more storage in shortly, like more of their content that they have. So I'm already like worried about being stopped or blocked in that case. Any comments
Again,
You just asked, like, if I break down your question, I'm hoping I'm remembering all the parts of it. So the last part, which is easier to remember because it was just now, you talked about media storage, which is not Velo. So it has nothing to do with the gigabyte that we talked about or row count or stuff like that. That's like media. And this is one thing, and that's not what you're paying 159. And also the beginning of your question was about uptime of your site. When we are selling 5 to 10 more compute, we're talking only about the package you're looking at from Velo's perspective. You're getting bigger resources to run your code. So when you write backend code or you store data, you get your own resources for storing your data, and you get 5 times more, up to 5 containers instead of 1, which is what you had up until now. And each container is actually 5 times stronger in CPU and 2 times stronger in memory, up to. So basically, but this runs your backend code. If the site is not functioning for some reason, if Wix is down, well, you have more backend, but the front end is not working, so you probably can't reach it. Or maybe something is broken in the reaching Wix itself. So it's really important that you understand that advanced infrastructure has to do with backend code and Velo, so stuff that you customly make. It will not make your store request run faster because it has nothing to do with it. It will not make your media load faster because it has nothing to do with it, or your front end to perform faster because it has nothing to do with the viewer. It is more of a backend and data. It will improve so if you have a lot of data you're reaching to build your page, to render your page, or if you have a lot of dynamic pages, or you have a very complex query that does a lot of things, then yeah, you will see a huge improvement of performance. Or you're actually going to all these third-party APIs, and then you're doing some compute work on the data you're gathering, and really doing heavy CPU load on your backend, you will see a huge improvement of your performance. But it is really important to have it fenced in the right area. What you're buying here in terms of Velo is the capability to run more backend and data resources. Okay, does that explain it? Avi, are you with us? Did I answer your question, or maybe you can sharpen it? You're muted.
Yeah, you kind of mute yourself, Ari.
Hi, yeah, sorry, it was saying I was not able to unmute myself, so I had to raise my hand a couple more times just to see if I can get that. It said host is not enabling unmute at this time. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's clear. I was mostly talking about the concerns of this month where basically Wix has been down quite a bit. But I do understand what you're saying on the other end. So thank you for answering that question.
all right. There was also a question in the Q&A that I just typed in the answer. We will share the slides and you will get the tables after the call. And I see Tim also raising a hand again.
Yes, so thank you for letting me asking a question again. So plan to ask for subscriptions before we can actually make the site in production. I'm thinking about, for instance, the limitations on the number of items. If I have to prepare a website that have 100,000 of items, I cannot do that unless I take the plan. And that's and the reason I need to do that in development is that I need to test, I need to see if I can upload everything, if the script can run. Same thing with the schedule task. I need to be able to make them run before the website is published. And so before the client takes on the plan. And so one thing I was thinking is like, hey, can you allow partners, certified partners, to bypass those limitations or to have access to higher tiers? So that will facilitate our work while giving an incentive to common user to pay to bypass the limitation. You see, so while we are developing as partners, we will have access to the full scale of development, and that will allow us to more easily sell the thing, because you can say, hey, everything is working, we test it. Now, if we want to make it run, we need that plan, you see. Whereas otherwise, I might say, hey, we might need the first plan, but I don't know, maybe we need the second one, I don't know yet. And that doesn't sound very professional, because client will say, okay, what do I do? How would it work? You see.
I think this is, something we need to discuss internally and see if there are such, capabilities that we could provide. It's, it's not something we have, considered at the moment, and we're not, obviously, it's not available now. So, we'll take your feedback and see if there's anything we can do about that. You with that? No, all good. All right.
Awesome. I guess that's it then. Thank you, Ruta, for the presentation, and thank you everybody for asking great questions on it. And I'm sure we'll be able to get back to you with some more clarity.